Okay, ready to go on to our next steps. And let's just review what we've done so far. What we've done so far is we've extended the solar panel wires using 3 wire nuts. This was step 1 on the outside of the project box. And then on the inside of the project box, we've used some more wire nuts for that solar panel extension cord and connected red to red and black to black for the end of the DC to DC converter that says in. That's step 2. Step 3, the other end of the DC to DC converter where it says out, we've soldered on, of course, and trimmed our red wires, red wire and black. And the red wire is going to connect to E and the black wire to C. And if we just trace the way the electricity is going to go here, the red wire from the DC to DC converter, bringing the electricity in from the solar panels, and then from E it goes across, because these connect. B connects to E, C connects to F, A connects to D. So the red wire solar from the solar panel is bringing electricity into E, going across to B, and then out of B into our diode, which of course is the one-way valve. The electricity can only go through the diode this way, right to left, coming out at the end where this silver stripe is. So it comes out at the end where it says A, and we'll go across to D where we'll connect it to some more red wires, and F will connect to some more red wires. So that's our first 3 steps. Now step 4 is making the battery cables with a fuse for the red wire. We've got a fuse, we'll cut it open, step A. We'll cut a black wire to match it, B and C. We will strip ends and put quick connects on one end of the red and the black wires. So the fuse is for safety, of course, in case you've wired something wrong, we won't have a short circuit. Instead, just the fuse will blow. Here are the DC car fuses, holders that I've gotten for you. The fuse goes in here. They'll do that last when we put the battery on. I'm going to do first step A here. Find about the center of the red wire and cut it open. And then just one end of it, it doesn't matter which end. You're going to strip insulation off about 1/2 inch, maybe half the size of your thumbnail. And this is size 16, so it's the 4th hole in from the end. A little bit bigger than our 18 wire that we've been using. Remember, of course, the smaller the numbers get, the bigger the wire gets. So 16 is bigger than 18. And a quick connect will just barely fit on here if you twist it really tightly. If not, you could always, like we did before, cut some wire off if it doesn't fit well, but I've managed to get it to fit so far. Might have to shove it in there a little bit. Just as long as no wire is showing. And then, of course, on our tool where it says insulated and non-insulated, and there's a little line, white line, we're crimping it there. Wanted to have music on for you guys, not all these announcements. And what comes next? We crimp it 3 different places, very hard. Tug test, TT. Make sure it's not coming off. Now we're going to get a piece of black wire, and it looks like I've got just enough left. That's going to be the same length as our red wire with the fuse on it. So I'll get from the roll here some black and red wire. The red wire we're just going to put back in the bag at the back of the room so we don't waste it. But I'll measure out a length of wire that's the same length, approximately, and cut it. And then the hardest part, of course, is pulling it apart. We're just going to use the black wire here. The red wire we won't throw it out because it's useful to people. We'll put it in that plastic Ziploc bag in the back. So we've got just the black wire here, and it matches in length to our fuse wire, roughly. So the black wire also needs a quick connect on the end. This black wire is a little smaller. It's 18 stranded. That's our third hole here. That's a little bit long for a quick connect, but better too long than too short. I'm just going to cut a little bit of it off and get a quick connect. This is all step 4. Step 4 is kind of a big step here. Crimping it again very tightly, 3 different places, 3 different times. Tug testing it. Okay, so these are our battery cables then. Red and black. So now the next step, step 5, is attaching 3 red wires from 3 different parts to D, letter D on the 3-terminal strip. 2 of the wires are going to go to our auto sockets and the third one to the battery. So we've already got, hopefully you've already got these things prepared. The auto socket 1 is loose with, and I've stripped a nice long, like 1 inch of insulation off to make it easier to splice them together. It might be a little too long. And then we've got, of course, the 3-panel, the panel mounted auto socket, which should have its own slightly shorter pair of red and black wires that we plug in. Remember, the red one goes to the center. Push it on really firmly so it stays. This one is the one I broke. Okay, here's another pair. Red one goes to the center, push it on really firmly. Black one goes to the outside. Okay, now all these wires are going to come together inside of our project box. So we'll take the red and black wires from the panel mounted auto socket and bring them in here on the left. And the other wires are going to come here on the right. So that includes the solar panel wires that we've already wired, the loose black auto socket 12-volt outlet, and just to make this easier, I can just twist these 2 temporarily together to get it through the hole easier. And finally, what's a little hard is our fuse wire with the quick connect end sticking out to attach to the battery. The battery is the very last thing we do. And the other ends of them, including this thick red wire, go through the hole on the right. It just barely fits, but it does fit. And if we need to get the drill and make your hole a little bigger, we can do that, but the good thing is it's going to be very secure once it gets through there. You might have to pull all the other wires over to the side a little bit and maybe feed the red one in first. Sometimes doing one at a time is better. The red one fits in, and now the trick is just getting the black one in, which is a little thinner, so we should be able to squeeze it in there somehow. Pull these wires over to the side. See, it's good that our wires are all long enough that we can reach, and it's going in, I think. There we go. Might have to get a needle nose pliers to pull it once it gets on the inside. All right, if it starts getting hard to put it through, it means that it's gotten a little bit too bent up. So I'm actually here's a little trick. I'm gonna cut it diagonally, make a little angle there. That will help us thread it in. And then these wires I'll pull out of the way, and we should be able to just barely get the black wire in. There we go, it's going through. And once you get it a little ways through, just reach on inside here. I know this is a real mess, but you just got to keep organized and keep track of your wires. Feed one in at a time. Red wire for the battery, black wire for the battery, and red and black wires for the 12-volt outlet auto socket. This is step 5 we're doing, attaching red wires. If you're not sure which wire's which, you can just pull on them a little bit here and see which ones move. Like these are solar panel wires, which have come detached from there. No, these are our solar panel wires. This is our just pull on each end, 3 auto socket. These are battery cables, easy to tell because the red one is thicker. And then finally, that's our 3 sets of wires coming through here, yeah. Okay, so now we're ready for the battery cables, size 16, stranded, which is a little bit bigger. And these wires are a little bit thicker, this battery cable wire, so we're gonna use this little trick of taking some of the strands, maybe about 1/3 of them, and bend them off the side. Normally this isn't a great idea because you want your battery cables to be thicker, but we're using such small amounts of electricity that you can do this just in the name of making the wires fit together better. So we've got that wire. Make sure you check really carefully. We've got this red wire, and we've got a 3rd red wire that's coming from this side. I forgot this side, the panel mounted auto socket. This wire also I'll strip about 1 inch. Okay, and these 3 red wires, this one's black, don't get confused. These 3 red wires are getting twisted together, and if they're a little long, that's fine. You can always cut them shorter. Line up where the insulation starts for all 3 of them exactly together, like that. Twist them together. And then they're a little long to fit in our 3 terminal strips, so I'm just going to cut a little bit off the end here. That ought to fit. So it's going into these 3 red wires. Make sure you got 3 red wires. Are going into D here on the 3 terminal strip. That's just across from A, so the electricity from A will come across and go into D. We're going to have to make sure the screw is very loose for D because we're fitting a lot of wires in here. Now you can actually unscrew it and watch on the side here, make sure the screw is not visible. Okay. Make sure those wires stay twisted together, which they did. You can even put a little piece of tape, red tape on them to hold them together. That's not a bad idea. Whoops, earthquake. Okay, and those 3 red wires connect. Make sure you got the right port here, right terminal to D. They stick all the way in there. The goal is to get them all the way in so no bare wire is showing here by D, because any bare wire could touch another bare wire. There's Mr. Angulo. Tighten the screw for D. That means 8:30 if you hear him in your seat, not just walking through the gate. Okay, let's see how it's going to work this time. All wires all the way in. You can smush them a little bit. Tighten the screw for D. Just a little bit showing there. So I'll try and squish them in a little more. If you've got a little bit showing, it's probably going to be okay, but we're going to go for perfection here. So this lasts you the rest of your life, and it continues to work. So I'll loosen that one more time. Twist these wires together one more time. Then we're going to just do the exact same thing with the black wires next. Cushioned all the way in, so no wires showing, or almost none. And if some is showing, we could always just put a little piece of tape around that too. I think I'll do that. That helps reinforce, keep the wires together. I'm having a fair amount of trouble with this. Okay, but that's all right, it just takes patience. Just keep twisting it and putting it in until it goes all the way in with no wire sticking out to D. And then you're going to have to kind of hold it in there while you tighten the screw. Okay, the screw is tightening. Very tight. And that's not quite going to do it because there's a wire sticking out. But what we can do is you can use a little bit of red tape. Kind of cheating using a little bit of red tape, but that's all right. I'll take just a little piece of red tape here. Use scissors to cut it is better, and just put it around these 3 wires next to D so I don't have any bare wires showing. Okay, now that was step 5, attaching the 3 red wires to D. Step 6 is very similar. We're attaching 3 black wires to F. And of course the 3 black wires are going to connect to the 2 auto sockets again and to the battery. And this is all going to be inside the box. So maybe I'll use a little tape again. So let's find our 3 black wires. It's an absolute mess. That's why you have to stay very organized here. Here's 1, here's 2. These should be the only wires left in here, except they're not, because you also have the wire from the switch. You don't want to get those. Those are going to be last. The little tiny black wire from the switch. Let's pull that out of the way. 3 black wires. 1 from the panel mounted auto socket. 1 from the battery. That's the tight one. And you can remember that's the one that I cut at a little bit of an angle so you can identify it. And 1 from the loose auto socket. So I'll strip all these about the same, a little bit less this time. We'll cut a little bent end off and strip about 1 inch. This is 18 stranded. Same thing here, 18 stranded. And you know, you've probably noticed by now, what's confusing about these black wires is that they have a little stripe of red on them. So just make sure that, you know, most of the wire is black. Line up the 3 wires so where the insulation is on them is perfectly lined up. Twist them together very tightly. We'll see if this is too long. If I can always cut it if it's too long. And these are going to connect to F. So let's make sure our screw for F is very loose. Feels pretty loose. I think these are going to work better because we don't have that big thick red wire this time. Yeah, those go all the way in without any wire sticking out. And then the secret is, you might need someone to help you with this. The secret is to hold them in place. I'm doing it this way while I tighten the screw. And we'll tighten these screws again later on, next time, the next class, because what happens with stranded wire like this is it gets crushed by the screw and it collapses and then it's loose. So tug test on those. There's a little bit showing, so maybe I'll just cheat and put a little piece of tape around it again. I think I will. It also helps hold the wires, it's a little support for them. Well, even though it's black, I don't have black tape right now. I'm gonna put a little piece of red tape around. All right, so now we've got a nice little mess here, but we're getting there. The last step, at least for now, is step 7. And step 7 is attaching our voltage meter and switch wires to A and C. Little red wire from the switch attaches to A where the diode is. Thin black wire from the voltage meter attaches to C. Those should be the last 2 wires, and there's a reason I've left them for last. It's because they're the shortest and the hardest to do. Okay, so let's see. Here's the little red wire, very short, and the insulation on it's pretty frail. I mean the copper there, so I'll bend it and twist it. This is going to get attached to A, and then hello, my black wire. I'm just making a video here. Unfortunately, we're not going to have the solar club today. Did you get my email about that? Oh, I'm sorry. I have to do calls. Sorry about that. Okay. So A for this little wire, and A is where the diode is. So we're going to have to, oh, wonderful, it came off. Okay, we're going to need a longer wire for the switch. But we can do the black wire from the switch. That's going to attach to C. And so far there's only one little black wire in C that comes from the DC to DC converter. So what I'll do is I'll just temporarily loosen that wire and twist it together with this wire. So we have 2 black wires here twisted together. And those are going to go back into C. All the way in, so no wires showing. A little bit of wires showing, so I'll loosen it. Twist it better. Put it all the way into C. There we go. Now no wires showing. Hold it in there. Hold it in while I tighten. One more time. This is hard, dealing with little tiny wires here. Might even have to get a pliers or something. Twist them together really well. Put them into C. All the way in. Hold it in place in C. Tighten the screw. All right. So the last wire would be the little red wire from our switch here, which would attach to A where the diode is. Fortunately, I broke that wire off. So good opportunity to practice soldering a new wire on here. So, just gonna do a little indoor soldering, which isn't ideal, but since it's just me and I'm here by myself, it's all right. You're gonna need another little piece of red wire. This is a perfect time to use that red wire that I cut off from before. That little extra bit of red wire. Here it is. So I need this wire to come out from the switch, and I'm gonna make it longer. Longer is always better. Probably about 4, 6, 5 inches there. Strip a little bit of insulation on one end and a little bit more on the other end. The end with the longer amount stripped off will be for splicing. Twist them. Got my glasses on here. Don't do soldering without your glasses. Whoops. And this is just about the hardest time for soldering once everything's already in there, but I think we're gonna get it anyway. A little bit of solder on the terminal of the switch. You know what I'm gonna do? This is where it's good to have long wires. I'm gonna pull all of this out of the way. That's the advantage of having longer wires. You can pull all this out of the way and then just be able to reach what I want to reach, which is the middle terminal of the switch. See if this is hot enough. Yeah, it is. It's heating up. So I've put as big a drop as I can on that middle terminal of the switch. There, that's pretty good. It's a big drop. And now a little bit of solder on the wire that I'm going to attach to the switch. Should really have a helping hands for this. On a tin, I want to coat that wire with solder on all sides. Okay. And now the hard part, getting them to go together. Well, if you know how, it's not really impossible. It's just melt them both at the same time with the soldering iron put between them. And then just stick them together. Almost got it there. There. Almost. Okay, and once you got them stuck together, just let it dry. Tug test it. And this last wire, and I burnt the box there a little bit, that's nice and hot. This last red wire from the switch goes to A. where the diode is. So I'll cut it a little shorter. You definitely do the shortest, these last short wires last. And you've got to sort of weave them in and out of each other. I think I'll turn all this around. That tape is helping now. Loosen my screw for A, where the diode, you can always find A because that's where the diode is. And then our little wire from the switch goes into A with the diode. There we go. And guess what's coming next? Plugging it in. Plug the battery and see if it works. I think everything's going to work. I'm pretty confident. If I can't get it to work, you can't really expect you guys to get it to work. Maybe tighten all our screws again. Everything gets tucked in, but I'm not going to close up the box just yet in case there's a mistake. I can be able to fix it. And here's the battery. That scared me for a second. Plugging in the red with the fuse wire and the black. And looks like our meter doesn't work yet. But let's try these. Well, now comes the art of troubleshooting. Okay, well, I'll check my wiring and get back to you.